There we go. So with that, let's jump down to introduction, or yes, let's do the agenda review first. So following the review overview of the agenda, we'll do introductions where we just want to hear the CWG members say hello to the group. And then following that, Erica will give a, she'll provide the responses to the questions from the last CWG meeting that were outstanding. So a focused, robust response to those items. And then following that, we're going to have a big, robust discussion about CWG historically and moving forward. Things like confirming the chair, which I will share now that we have one nominee for chair, who is David Vieira. And if anyone else wants to nominate someone else, there'll be an opportunity for that. And if there's another nominee, we'll vote. Otherwise, we will confirm David as the chair at today's meeting. We'll have the conversation about the facilitator moving forward that I talked about. And then we'll also have a recap of the results of the survey that was sent out and the work plan for 2022. And then I'll also provide an overview of some of the upcoming opportunities to engage with the project and learn more about the project. Following that, Bernice will give a general phase 2 update with focus on the last VTA board meeting, which happened on May 5th. And then Erica will give an overview of the construction transportation management plans, the Ctmps. And then at the end, there'll be an opportunity for CWG member report out, so that's the opportunity for you to say whatever it is you want to say at the end of the meeting. And we do want to hear from you. But also let me be clear that there are opportunities for discussion throughout this meeting, right? So if you have things you want to say via chat, please do that. If you want to chime in, please do that, but just be respectful. If you want to raise your hand, we'll make sure to call on you so we can hear from you throughout this meeting. We do have some identified time just for that at the end of the meeting as well. And then I'll for next steps, I'll give an overview of the agenda, the draft agenda for the next CWG meeting. Next slide, please. So with that, let's do introductions of the CWG members. If you just work your way down this list in this order for the folks that are here, just name an organization, please. I don't see Bill. Carlos, I don't see either. Chris, no. Coben or Sylvia, no. Connie, nope. Danny.
Sorry, just real quick. We do have a representative from Cristo Rey here, Marcos.
Thank you, Erica.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, my name is Marcos Manriquez. I'm the chief of staff here at Cristo Rey San Jose. So thank you, Erica, for I know when to chime in, right? But yes, and I'll be in for Coban and Sylvia.
Perfect, thank you. Danny, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, Danny Garza, Plata Royal Neighborhood Association, and I'm really glad that I'm sad that I could not be part of a director for this, but because of my operation, but I'm glad David is there.
Thank you, Danny. And David, I would say, is not here today. I don't see D either. And as Erica jumped out correctly to make sure that we had an organization covered, if I'm reading someone and you're standing in for that person for the organization, please chime in or raise your hand. Elma, Ed, Helen. Helen, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi. I'm Helen Matsamori. I'm representing Brookwood Terrace neighborhood and Five Winds Church. So I'm excited to be in the meeting.
Thank you very much, Helen. And Justin.
Hello, Justin Triano, representing Community Express on behalf of Ride Eastside San Jose. It's primarily the Eastside Bicycle community. Thanks.
Thank you, Justin. I don't see Matt here or Ricardo, and there's Terry.
Oh, my name is I'm sorry, Terry.
Oh, Bella's here.
Bella's here with Posa.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm Bella Ferreira, and I'm here representing Boston.
Great, thank you very much, Bella.
Sure.
And Terry.
And I'm Terry Christensen, representing Communiversity.
Thank you very much, Terry, and nice to see you all and hear from you all. Next slide, please. So just reminder, I went over a little bit of this, but I'm gonna go into a little bit more depth. So you're able to mute and unmute yourself. There's the chat feature I mentioned. There's also the raise hand function if you click on reactions. If you're calling in from a landline and you press *9, that will raise your hand, so we'll know to call on you. And then, I talked about making sure you let others speak, but also we want to hear from multiple people, right? So if we get into a place where there's a lot of hands raised, or you're chiming in and saying a lot of things, please be respectful in the way that if you're talking a lot and other people have their hands raised, we do want to hear from everyone. So please also provide some space to let others talk as well. So that's it. Next slide, please. And a reminder about upcoming meetings. So we are targeting doing some social, so in-person get-togethers in July. We are waiting for the context to exist for us to be able to do that, right? So we are operating under the VTA umbrella, and things like VTA board meetings still are not in person. So we do need the policy framework to do that. And COVID is surging at the moment. But once COVID goes away and we do have a framework that allows us to meet in person, that is something that's on our radar. We very much want to do. There's also the regular CWG meetings, the next round being in September and November. And we also want to let you know about an upcoming community social that we're targeting to host in late August, which is very much an open public meeting that we're looking to host at the VTA downtown block. So the general public can come and learn about all things VTA BSV, meet people, get questions answered, build connections, things like that. And then also that there's regular updates about the project that are provided via the VTA Board of Directors meetings. Those are the first Thursday of every month. They're off in July, so the next two being in June and August. And then also when there's other meetings like board workshops, Kristen will continue to email the CWG members to let them know about that, and the general CWG list. Next slide, please. And also a reminder about the people that are here to help you out and work with you. We have Bernice, who you're going to hear from later today, who's the Director of External Affairs for VTA's BART project. We have Kristen, who's your CWG coordinator. So she is currently and will continue to be your link for all things CWG. I'm stepping in as the coordinator for the 28th Street Little Portugal station. So I'm also available for you to reach out to me, particularly for more technical things. And then we have Marissa Sanchez, who's joined our team, who's here and operating the slide deck. And she's going to be involved in many things related to external affairs. So feel free to reach out to us as you see fit as this project advances, and we'll have a conversation, get you the information you're looking for, connect you to the right people. Next slide, please. So with that, I'll pass it over to Erica to provide some follow-up from the questions from the last CWG meeting.
Great, thank you, Doug. There were some questions last time about the business resource program and when the timing and when it's going to take place, and whether or not it will be in place before we break ground. So yes, the business resource program will be in place before we break ground. The intent of the program is to provide assistance to businesses that will remain during construction. Right now, we're in the planning stages developing the program. JC Lacey recommended the 4 components of the program you see on the right side of the screen and is further analyzing those 4 areas. We provided an update to the VTA Board of Directors in March and plan to go back again to the board in August with more details. And Kristen will let you know in advance of when that meeting gets calendared, if it is indeed in August when we're planning, or if it ends up being at another time. Next slide. We also received a question about the website and whether that's the appropriate place to track and list concerns and issues. Right now, our team is exploring implementing a virtual project office where folks could access information and leave comments in an interactive platform. A key member of our team, Lucas Perez, has joined us from customer service to help improve that experience. In the meantime, as we work through that, you can provide comments and questions to us via email or the hotline phone number and email address at the bottom of the screen there, which we already track in Salesforce, which is a platform where we're able to track and manage all of our inquiries and comments that we receive. So we're already tracking them, and we'll just implement an additional way in the future.
Thank you very much, Erica. So we're going to move on to the CWG discussion, most of which will be led by Bernice, but I'll provide a little overview of it and some framing intro information first. If you can go to the next slide, please, Marissa. So first, we're going to start out with the conversation about Well, I'll start, before we get into the chairs, I'll just provide a little recap of the role of the CWG broadly and CWG members. And then after that, Bernice will get into leading the discussion about the CWG chair roles and confirming who the chair will be. As I mentioned, we have the one nomination for David, and if we'll confirm him unless there's another nomination. And then Bernice will also lead a conversation about the CWG facilitator moving forward. Like I said, I'm here temporarily, and I'll be supporting Bernice and facilitating this meeting today, but it likely won't be me moving forward. So Bernice will talk a little bit about that, the expected roles of the facilitator, and the approach to onboard the facilitator. And following that, I'll provide an update of the results we received from the survey and how those relate to our work plan for 2022, and then provide an overview of some of the upcoming community outreach events. Next slide, please. So a reminder of the charter and the role of the CWG. CWG is expected, the members are expected to be project liaisons who receive briefings on technical areas, receive project updates, to overall build an understanding of the project, and generally collaborate with VTA to contribute to the successful delivery of the project. So your role as CWG members, like you are today, we want you to attend CWG meetings to get informed through this channel and through other avenues. We also want you to share accurate information with the communities that you're a part of and represent, and also to act as conduits for the community at large, right? So it's two ways. It's learning about the project, sharing that with your communities, learning from your communities, and then being honest and providing that feedback to us so we can do that what's in that lower bullet down on the left and work together to contribute to successfully deliver the project. And let me take a pause there. Terry, I see your hand is up. Please go ahead.
Yeah, this is probably an old charter and role list that I may not have paid close enough attention to in the past, but reading it today and yesterday, it strikes me that it's all about what we can do for VTA, what the community representatives can do for VTA, and not so much the other way around until we get to provide feedback at the very end. But I think most of us are participating in this to represent our communities and to do more than just provide feedback. Feedback is kind of reaction to what's happening. I think most of us want to be able to take the initiative a little bit more. So my suggestion would be we just add a bullet, which is that we, as our role as community working group members, is to represent the community. And I don't want to jam that through at this meeting or whatever. We can put that on for folks to think about whether they want to add that, partly because we've only got 5 representatives here out of 15. And only 5 representatives even responded to the survey when you ask our opinions about things. I think what this signifies is a bigger problem with declining community participation. And frankly, I was going to quit because the meetings were getting to the point where it was just PowerPoints and no discussion. I'm glad we changed it to the Zoom format, so at least we can see who else is here. Thank you for doing that. I know people listened to some of the complaints that David and I made earlier on, but I think we need to think more broadly about why people aren't participating. Maybe we need to talk to the other 10 representatives and figure out what is it? Is it because they think this is useless? Is it because they're already overextended? Is it because the timing is wrong, and so on? I know you tried to get to some of that in the survey, but 5 responses is not enough to answer these questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Bernice, I saw you came off mute. I don't know if you want to provide any response or just absorb that, think about it, and figure out how to...
I was off mute before, just so I'd be ready when you called on me, because I tend to sometimes like start talking and forget I'm still on mute. But so Terry, I guess, I think we definitely want to make sure that the members that are engaging are feeling that they're making a contribution, right? And it's worthwhile for the time and the commitment. So, whatever we need to do, I don't know, beyond provide feedback, we can work on sort of what more, in more detail, how do we do that feedback mechanism, right? So that there's more opportunities for input. And we're certainly open to suggestions on that.
And following up a little bit about that, Terry, I heard you mention VTA can do more for the community. I didn't hear you articulate what those things were. I'm curious if you have ideas you'd like to articulate about that we can think about.
I'm not sure I phrased it that way, but back to Bernice's point, I think it needs to be clear on this list that our job as community working group members is to represent the community. That's the point I was trying to get across.
I heard that one loud and clear. Yeah.
Okay, good. What VTA can do to encourage this, it's really hard doing this. I know it's not all your fault by any means. We're stuck with Zoom. We haven't been able to meet in person. These meetings would be a lot different. There would be a lot more participation, I think, if we were meeting in person. So we can, and hopefully soon we can get back to that. We have a facilitator and a chair. I think that's going to address some of the problems as well. So I appreciate that progress has been made. I just think everybody needs to continue to think about these things, about our role and about why we're not getting much participation.
Thank you, Terry. Danny.
So what Terry is saying is what I've been trying to do this whole time, speaking from the community position that I have. And I mean, I feel that's what Terry's saying, but I've been trying to say this same thing the whole time. VTA is not listening. BRT was a perfect example of VTA not listening. I've always talked about community participation, but mostly community protection. Once this project gets going and once the construction starts, we're gonna need protection at every road intersection, from King Road to 24th Street. We're gonna need crosswalks. We're gonna need crossing guards. This is just gonna be the biggest unsafe project because of the way contractors work when there's no oversight and no punishment and no fines. That's what happened with BRT. That's why we got rid of Goodfellas. So let's not make another mistake like that, and let's listen to the community. The community is why Goodfellas was finally removed, and Granite Rock had the general contractor had to take over. Don't let this happen again, especially having a child run over, hit, a family abused by traffic because of construction. All right, that's what I have to say.
Thank you, Danny. We're taking notes and we'll take that into consideration moving forward. Thank you for your input. Next slide, please. So Bernice, I think this is passing it over to you to lead the conversation about the CW chair roles and processes.
Sure, yeah, as Doug mentioned, we had one nominee, but just want to go over a little bit about the chair role. This, our CWG today has had the chair role in the past, so this is not new. The downtown Diridon and the Santa Clara CWGs did not have chairs in the past. So just wanted to go over what that role would be, that the chairs play an active role in helping VTA set the meeting agendas, including topics and guest speakers. And Terry, I feel like this might be the opportunity for the chair to really maybe interject how we approach topics and how we can better get the CWG committee members to feel like they're making more of a contribution and that we're hearing that, and that it's not them, that it's more of a two-way communication is what I hear you feeling that might be of more value to committee members and have them engage more. But the CW chairs, we also are going to have them manage out the member report out section of the meeting. Once again, trying to encourage more input and feedback from the members that we can take back to those that are directly working on the project. And this next CW chair role will begin in June and then be for a year till May of 2023. We'll repeat the nomination and voting process each year. And we, as you know, electronically, and we had mentioned it at the last meeting that we were accepting nominations. Today, we're accepting further nominations. Like I said, we have one nomination and that's David, but if we have another nomination. We can have a chair and an alternate. So just want to put that out there, and happy to take any input or answer any questions right now on this process for getting a new chair for next year.
Thank you, Bernice. And Terry, I see your hand is up again. Terry, please go ahead. Terry, you're muted.
Sorry about that, thanks. I objected to this process when it started, because I don't think this is any way to choose a chair. It's a done deal now. It's okay with me. David wants to serve. That's great. He's out of the country, so couldn't be here today. And Danny also offered himself at a certain point and now is not able to follow through on that. So Danny, thank you. I totally respect both of you for putting yourselves forward, but I don't think self-nomination is a very democratic process. I think nominations should come from the group in an open session, in an open discussion. Maybe I could have talked Bill Rankin into running for chair, or Carlos or Justin or Helen or whoever, if we'd been at an open meeting. So I'm not going to object to this at this point, but in future, let's do it together rather than doing it online. And I don't think it was clear at the last meeting that that was the way the process was going to work, or I would have objected then. Thank you.
And I believe that's what we're proposing today, Terry, that if someone wants to nominate someone, including others that are on the current CWG, we'll accept that nomination, and we have a poll ready to go, and we'll load that name into the poll and we'll do a vote right now.
Good. I get that, but I don't want it to be all self-nominations in the future. That's a done deal. So, and I vote for David Vieira.
Okay, so I'll still pause there. We have a nomination from David Vieira. If someone wants to nominate themselves or someone else on the CWG, and the other person on the CWG wants to accept that nomination, we'll load that poll right now with those names in it, and we will have a vote. So before we confirm David, let me pause and ask, either put it in the chat or put your hand up and not say who you want to nominate, including with yourself. So are there any other nominations for chair of the 28th Street Little Portugal CWG other than David? Terry, is your hand up to nominate someone?
Oh, no, sorry.
So I don't see any hands going up. I don't see any nominations in the chat. So move to accept from Danny. So I'm gonna do what I did I'm gonna do a 5-second countdown. And if I don't see anything in the chat or hands go up after the 5-second countdown, we're gonna confirm David. So 5, 4, 3, 2.
I have my hand up.
Oh, I didn't see your hand. I'm sorry. Is that Chris? Hi, Chris.
How are you?
Doing well. How are you?
Good. So you say David, right?
Yep.
Vote for David.
Okay. So I don't think we need to do a vote. Good to know you've also confirmed David, Chris. So I think we have our new chair, who is David, for the 28th Little Portugal CWG. And should we give him a virtual round of applause? Good. So we like working with David. We're happy we get to continue working with David. And there it is. So that's the new CWG chair. Next slide, please. Okay, and Bernice, back over to you to talk a little bit about the role, purpose, process to select the next facilitator for the CWGs.
Sure. As Doug mentioned today, Doug is filling in as our quasi facilitator just to keep us moving and keep us on schedule and sticking to the agenda. But we did want to talk about re-engaging a facilitator and wanted to just go through and vet what the envision role and purpose are to make sure as we seek out the next facilitator that everyone's in agreement with what that specific role would be, which would be to facilitate meeting facilitation, keep us on time and on track with the agenda, to encourage those discussions that we have heard are so meaningful when appropriate, good guide conversations that are productive. We don't have an issue, but maintain civil discourse. The facilitator would be a third-party facilitator not working on the project, someone that has facilitation skills from the outside, and also keep we will, as the the team keep the members informed on the process as we're beginning to engage a future facilitator. So I just wanted to get some feedback if there is something else in addition to these roles for the facilitator that we should be looking for when engaging. I just wanted to get, and the group wanted to get some feedback from the CWG members.
So what's wrong with bringing Eileen back?
We'll have to check her availability. You know, Eileen is very skilled at facilitating, but her skill set is, I believe, on a higher level than facilitation. That's why if we're looking for something more, you know, Eileen is very savvy in advocacy and the political environment. And so that's why I want to check what are we looking for in a facilitator.
Well, you know what? I've never been afraid to hire somebody smart. That's for damn sure. Especially somebody smarter than me. You know what I'm saying?
None of us should be.
Harry, I see your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, thanks to VTA for agreeing to bring in a facilitator again. I think it'll be really important to making the process work better and actually easy for all of you, much easier for all of you on VTA staff. I wonder if a bullet should be included here about working with the chair on the agenda and so on.
Sure.
That's also something that we did talk about expressly during the Diridon downtown CWG meeting yesterday, that the chair will play a role in the process to confirm the facilitator. It will also work with the chair on refining the work plan and agendas. So the facilitator, I think, would clearly play a role in that.
So if there's no other feedback, we will pursue seeking to bring on third-party facilitator and keep you all apprised of the process. Our goal would be to have one for our next meeting. Can't guarantee we'll make the process just because we'll have to go through the contracting process, but we will do whatever we can to get that in place as soon as possible.
Cool. Thank you, Bernice. I can pause, see if there's anything else on questions for Bernice on the facilitator.
Yeah, I do. Do we have other facilitators in mind that know what the hell we're doing here and what we've been doing for the last 17 years?
Do you want to take that one, Bernice?
So Dan, do you mean that is savvy of the project or savvy of like, so more than facilitation, having some background? Is that what you're suggesting, Dan?
Yeah, no, just a project. Just a project. Because, you know, this has been going on since what? Since Lisa Ives was representing VTA for BART and stuff like that. So, you know.
Another consideration we might be is, you know, as the project is advancing, you know, this could be an opportunity to engage an SBE or DBE firm. So we'll have to look into things like that because we are encouraged to look at consultants and contractors that have their DBE SB certification. So that's one other layer that we may be able to incorporate with this.
I would totally agree with that.
Okay, thank you, Danny. Pausing to see if there's any other things in the chat or hands raised on the facilitator. Seeing none, thank you very much. Let's move on to the next slide, please. So I'm just going to provide a little recap of what we learned from the survey that we sent out to all CWG members. So between all 3 CWGs, we received 15 responses. So just being transparent about that's definitely not all of the CWG members, but it is still useful information, right? It's a sample. So one of the questions we asked was about future agenda topics people would like to see as part of the CWGs. And so some of the popular ones, there's things very much related to real estate, like station area planning and adjacent developments, real estate and TOD. So the dark blue lines, over 50% of the respondents indicated that these topics were priorities for future agendas. And there's a number of things also about construction, things like construction planning, pre-construction survey and monitoring program, and then the construction transportation management plan. Erica is going to talk about the construction transportation management plan later today, so we've at least got that one covered. And then, this is useful information for us to have on hand. The next slide, you'll see the work plan for 2022, and it's useful for us to know, there's milestones along the project, so places we need to cover certain topics based on when information is available or we are coming to a certain milestone. But this helps us inform, how much airtime should we give to each one of these topics within the agenda. So we can go to the next slide, please. So there is a relationship between that survey and our work plan for 2020, which is here, and we intend to work with the chair to refine this. So we'll work with David on refining the work plan for 2020, but the draft is here for review, and you also have a copy of this deck. Next slide, please. So we also asked a question about, to what extent do you want to have a combined meeting with the other CWGs? So as you can see here, the 28th Street Little Portugal responses to this question were different than the other CWGs. So downtown Diridon and Santa Clara are interested in a combined meeting from the responses we heard, right? And then the 20th Street Little Portugal, the majority of responses we received said that they prefer to keep all these meetings separate. So we'll take that information into account as we plan future CWG meetings. Next slide, please. We also asked if there was feedback regarding how the meeting is facilitated and formatted. So the feedback we received here is summarized in these boxes. What we're doing in response is here with these green check marks. So as you can see, we've updated the Zoom meeting settings. You're experiencing that right now. The BSV2 updates are a standing agenda item, and we expect to continue to keep it that way. We're trying to present less and provide more space for feedback and discussion. I hope you're seeing that today as well. I talked a little bit about the CWG socials, us getting back together, and that's something the project would very much like to do when the context is created for that to happen. And also integration of discussion and dialogue. I hope you're seeing that happening in today's meeting, and we intend to do that moving forward. There's also some pretty positive feedback here that we'll take credit where we can get it. Things like the meetings are facilitated very well and have a great flow. So thank you for that feedback. And the format is done well and very professionally. So the project team very much appreciates that feedback. That hasn't been me, but those that have participated. And there's also one here about providing a roster with emails for CWG members. So the CWG members can communicate with one another via email, and we intend to provide that. We just ask that if a CWG member does not want their email included in that list, please email Kristen and let her know that so we can leave your email off of that list. Next slide, please. And then we also asked a question about the time of day for the meeting. The majority of respondents, the most popular response was people like the current time. So we do intend to keep the time where it is. Next slide, please. So a recap, in incorporation of the feedback we've heard to date, we are working on minimizing agenda items to make room for more discussion. You're experiencing the updated Zoom meeting format right now. There's the work to bring on a new facilitator that Bernice just talked about, and institute CW chair, where we just confirmed David earlier. And then we're working on getting back in person through those CWG socials after today's CWG meeting. Next slide, please. Okay, and then a little update about community outreach. So a reminder that there's a lot of, Terry, yes, please.
Well, before we leave the survey, it's good these questions were asked, but the response is pathetic. 15 out of 39, 5 out of 15 for our community working group. And this is not like it's a random public survey. That would be a good response for a random public survey. This is people who are supposed to be engaged. So to me, the response here is another indication of the disengagement of our community working group representatives. And just for future reference, I think it would be much better if these kinds of questions were brought up at a meeting where we could have an open discussion so I could hear what Helen and Danny and Justin think about all these things and maybe agree with them rather than just blast out my own opinion off the top of my head. So that in future, let's do this kind of stuff at a meeting where we can see each other, hear from each other, talk to each other, interact with each other, and hopefully we'll get better overall participation when that happens. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
So Doug, I appreciate how you're handling this. Again, what Terry's talking about is what I've said this whole time, and here's my point. You know, I want people to hear what I have to say about construction safety before the job starts, as the job is going on. You know, like I said, I have my OSHA 10, my OSHA 30, and OSHA 500. I could teach construction safety, you know, but just me talking to one person at a job site is not going to save us. What's going to save us is everybody knowing what's demanded in OSHA and in the city of San Jose and from VTA. But VTA is going to be on their property. When they're on, VTA is on the street, it's on the city's property. People need to understand that. They need to learn that. And Terry's right. We need to go through this construction safety in a dedicated meeting. And I hope I'm not speaking too much, but that's what I believe.
Okay, thank you for sharing your input, Danny. And you know, as we talked about, we're trying to preserve more space for discussion. And if I'm just looking at the time on the agenda, we have roughly 5 minutes left in this section. And we also have 10 minutes reserved later in this meeting for the CWG member report out. So there is room for discussion now if the group wants to have it, or if you want to wait till later, we can. So, you know, if we want to go back and revisit some of those survey questions and talk about them as a group now, we can. Marissa, would you mind just starting at the beginning of those questions? And, you know, the survey questions, that one first, and then I can pause, and if anyone wants to raise their hand or put anything in the chat to start a discussion on these items, we can do that. And I think we can just flip down through those survey questions quickly and see if that happens. So I'll pause here for, you know, a few seconds, see if there's anything in the chat on this topic. Or
well, you know what I was thinking is maybe we can have a separate meeting dealing with construction safety. And I've said that before. You're not aware of that, but I've said that before.
Bernice.
There's too many things that can go wrong, from a crosswalk to a broken pipe to a concrete brick sewer failing because a truck that is too heavy rolls over it. Because we have concrete sewers, concrete and brick or whatever, on that side of 101. That's the old side.
We definitely have in the notes your statement about meeting about construction safety.
And we are going to be talking about the Ctmp, the Construction Transportation Management Plan, and we have a draft plan. And then when this first contractor for the tunnel and track work gets on, we'll be doing a contract specific Ctmp, and that is certainly something that we can look at, because that's where the means and methods are identified and where the truck haul routes and everything and closures. So I think that as we get into that process, we can certainly get input from the CWGs to weigh into, and I think that was already in the plan, correct me if I'm wrong, Erica, in the development of the Construction Transportation Management Plan, and we can look at how safety applies to that as we're going through that. So I think that we can make sure as we engage the CWGs in that process, we also talk about general safety related to that.
Yeah, well, that's good. I hope that the community is involved, and I mean us, all the time, because, you know, one of the things that I know, because we have property on 24th Street, and I know that when diesel trucks come down that street, it's noted. You know, people are afraid. They don't want diesel trucks down those streets because underneath the pavement is too, it just will not take the load of those diesel trucks coming, and we've said it. We've said it. And the city knows it. VTA needs to understand that they have to stay on that side of 26th and 27th.
Thank you for that, Danny. We are coming up the time on this section. And as Bernice mentioned, Erica is going to cover the Ctmps here in a little bit, which is related to the issues you're raising. So I'll also say that we do have space for the CWG member report out at the end. So if folks want to revisit any of these survey questions and talk about that as a group today, we can do that if people want to use that time for that. But let's move on down the agenda. Next up is Bernice. Marissa, if you could take us down to the section for the May board recap. So this is the standing BSV2 update. I can provide those community outreach updates. They're in your slides. I can do this quickly. Can you go to the previous slide, please? So there's always the website information's a lot of it's there. We post on social media, Facebook and Twitter. There's fact sheets on the website. We also take those out to community engagement events. Right now we have an updated fact sheet about project benefits tunneling. There's the broad community meetings that we host. The next ones that Community Social I was talking about on the VTA block. We'll do tailored group presentations. We have a neighborhood association, a business association, advocacy organization. You'd like us to talk with you about VTA's BART project. Reach out to us, let us you know what topic, what some dates and times are, and we'll work all that out. There's a hotline number you can always call to ask questions about the project or provide comments. And we're about to send out some mailers to the within 1,000 feet of the alignment, basically asking people how they want to be engaged, right? So as construction nears and there's events to, opportunities to engage, there's information you need to know. Do you want email, phone, text, or another method, or in different languages? So we're getting that out so we know how people want to be communicated with. Next slide, please.
So before you move on Doug, Little Portugal East does not have a representative. I'm their representative from Raul Perales. So do me a favor, whatever you send out, send to my email.
Okay. Are we sending those notifications, the mailers? Are those also an email blast going out with those?
No, they're going, what we're doing is we're doing all of the properties that are along, that will be in close proximity to the construction, because we want to make sure that different properties may have different interactions, like there could be building monitoring, there could be noise and vibration. So we want to get all the contact information, not knowing exactly what each individual building will maybe be involved in. But we want to make sure we have owner contact information, resident, business, whoever is in that property for whatever reason, that we have a way to communicate with them. We will be doing overall general outreach too. So I think that this particular postcard is to make sure that we get all that contact information for everybody in close proximity. But there will be
Go ahead.
other mechanisms. What we're doing right now in Salesforce, that's our constituent management program. So we're classifying every engagement and every individual. So anyone who says they want to be involved in the project, we'll say, like, so if it's the Little Portugal East neighborhood, then we'll say, okay, what do you want information on? And we'll enter that in Salesforce. So anytime we give information on anything happen around 28th Street, Little Portugal, or whatever, you'll get that information. So we're building that database right now.
Yeah, okay, so what we want information on, those people don't even know, they don't even recognize the project coming yet, so there's a big issue there. So I'm at, our family is at 25th and East St. James. I'm at 50 Beverly, of course. I've always been there for 62 years. But I do represent Little Portugal East. So I would appreciate it if you send me, as the community leader for Little Portugal East, send me what you're going to send them.
We'll make sure you get information. Lucas is on this call, and he is our technical web Salesforce constituent management guru. So he's going to be setting up all those systems and classifying every stakeholder. We classify our stakeholders like tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, based on your involvement and how close you are to the project activities, or if you just want all the information. So we'll send you everything if you desire that. So
yes, well, I want everything, but But is he taking into account that families that have two jobs and kids that are latchkey that get this information? I mean, all the technology you have works, but if our families don't have connectivity or can't use it, it's no good. You're wasting money.
Well, you know, depending on what activity is how we will engage with the community. I mean, there will be times when we do things like a lot electronically. There'll be times when we'll actually hand out flyers and knock on doors. So we initiate whatever mechanism it is to make sure we can get in contact with those that need to have the information.
And Danny, it sounds like it might be worthwhile for to reach out like to me or Kristen in an email so we can make sure we can connect you with Lucas and make sure we have you and those you care about appropriately coded so we can make sure that you get the information in a way that works for you. So if you want to reach out, I can set that up.
Yeah, well, you know what? Lucas could reach out to me. I mean, I've made my statement and Lucas is on this webinar.
Yes, sir,
Lucas,
we're here.
would you please do that? Would you connect with Danny and make sure we have him coded correctly in the Salesforce system? So
Absolutely. 50 Beverly, I got it.
Perfect. Thank you. And I got to move us along. We're over time. I'll finish this slide. So we are going to do a presentation at the Downtown Association meeting. It's going to be at the Tabard Theater on San Pedro Street, also be broadcast virtually. I already talked about the CWG Summer Social. That's when we get together when context allows. I also talked about the August Community Social. That's the big public event on the VTA downtown block. We're also planning on doing tabling events like we did for the station look and feel effort that there's pictures up on the right in July and through September in the station areas. So in this area, we did the Alum Rock Farmers Market. And if there's another place you think we should table another community event, please let us know. You know, because we do want your help to work to deliver this project together, right? So we want to work with your neighborhood associations, business organizations, advocacy organizations to make sure that people are informed and have the right connections so we can deliver this project successfully together. Okay, next slide, please. I'm trying to get us back on time. We had a discussion here. Next slide, please. Bernice, you're up for the recap of the May board meeting. Bernice, you're muted. Bernice, you're on mute.
It was getting windy, so just wanted to share some general project highlights. We've been having monthly meetings with the Federal Transit Administration in an effort to provide all the information and move forward with our process to get a full funding grant agreement. We got an additional $200 million allocated to the project in the president's proposed fiscal year 2023 budget. That makes a total of $425 million to date, not insignificant. We're proceeding with the real estate acquisition process, acquiring those properties based on the delivery method of the project and the order with which we need those properties. So it's a process over time and acquiring those mainly more on the west to begin with and working on relocation plans for those businesses that have to be relocated. We are working on cooperative agreements with City of San Jose and the City of Santa Clara. It's basically how we work together since the stations are going to be in both of those cities. We've executed master agreements in our first set of co-op agreements, and the second set of co-op agreements are how we engage and how the cities review design and also the process when we get into construction and permitting and such. We have our ongoing technical coordination with our partner agencies and the third party. We're working with lots of utilities and executing agreements with all of the major utilities that run throughout the project corridor. We conducted a stations workshop with Spur, City of San Jose, and BART. There's been a lot of attention on the station designs. And we did a project update. We have a VTA BART working committee that consists of 4 board members from each of the boards. And we did a project update last month to that committee. Next slide, please. There was a VTA admin and finance committee meeting, and there was some discussion at that meeting about the project funding. I'm sure many of you have been keeping track what's been shared in the media. And I just wanted to just give a little bit of recap where we are as a project. Our current funding projection that we submit in our application to the Federal Transit Administration for the EPD program was a $6.9 billion project. The federal estimates that they came back with, they took our project that we entered into this program application at a very early level of design and added additional risk and contingency, some additional cost for inflation, and also additional cost to be accounted for with the great increase in the cost of commodities and goods. So they set a ceiling for our project at 9.1 billion. And in their letter of intent, they basically stated that they intend to give us up to 25% of the project, up to 2.3 billion. But if we end up being less, that they will give us the lesser amount, which equals 25% of the total cost. So right now what VTA is doing through these contracts is, as we're advancing the contract, we will then reforecast the cost based on more certain bids in this progressive design build tunnel and track work contract. The contractor will be doing an open book process for the schedule and the cost. And so before October of next year, we will reforecast those costs based on more certain estimates from the contractors. The O&M also came up. That is the agreement that we have with BART to operate and maintain the system. Right now, that's being applied to phase 1. It will apply to phase 2. There were some discussions about that being enough, that one Measure B source, and just wanted to relay that there are other funding sources. So this is not a statement that we will not be able to pay for the operation and maintenance. It's just that as they're looking at Measure B, that fund has a finite amount. So just wanted to give us a little bit of clarity and perspective on that. We we gave our general manager the authorization to proceed and award the contract to Cwg Trailer, a joint venture, for the first stage of the tunnel and track work contract. This is being done through progressive design build. And in this first stage with the $235 million, they're going to be advancing that design and bring it up to about a 90% level. Part of the first 90 days, they're going to be looking at innovations and such, and we'll be working with them on that. And then they will, the big part of the contract, which somewhere in the $2 billion range, will be the stage 2 when they actually begin the construction and start the work to do the tunneling and all of the major construction works. Next slide, please. So as I said, the board authorized the general manager to execute stage 1 for the $235 million. We will, I think, almost as soon as tomorrow, be issuing a limited notice to proceed. We're getting to the final details on executing that contract. We will continue our collaboration with BART, City of San Jose and City of Santa Clara, as I mentioned, with those innovations to advance design concepts. And then we'll present an update on CP2 and potential innovations to the VTA board in September of this year.
Is Cwg minority contractor? Are we looking at that there?
So there are goals for they each have, there's an overall project goal for engaging DBEs and SBs. So everyone on this, they actually have a dedicated person as part. It was a requirement with their proposals that they have somebody dedicated to ensuring that they meet the efforts to engage. I think the goal is somewhere around 15% right now. Yeah, I'll have to double check on that exact amount, but yes, they are required. And so this is what they're doing right now, is ensuring, their subs that they can meet those goals.
Are there financial penalties for not meeting those goals?
I don't think there's financial. I don't believe there's financial penalties, but I think they have to demonstrate the effort.
It's okay to demonstrate the effort and put a woman's name on the name of a company, and that woman is just a piece of paper. That's not fair.
Yeah, there's much more, there's a much more complicated process to that there in how they assign the goals and what they have to do to demonstrate that. But we can make that another subject and a further discussion and talk about the DDE SBE process.
See, I don't know if you know this, but I sit with the State of California Department of Transportation Small Business Advisory Council. And this is why I'm asking these questions, because it happens at the state level. It can happen at the community level. People lie.
I think we're going to have to take that as a comment for now. We are at time on this topic. And I will, Danny, we've heard a lot from you today. I'm going to ask that you provide a little bit of space. If there's other folks that want to speak, please raise your hand or write something in the chat. Danny, I'll come back to you as time allows.
So at the board meeting, as part of the agenda item, we got a request, a memo from our board chair and the mayor of San Jose and another council member for us to do a third-party peer review of the tunneling methodology. So we will be proceeding with that. We're looking at who that third party be and the timing of that. So just wanted to announce that that is being done. The hope is that it will just reaffirm all of the previous analysis that's been done in comparing these two tunneling methodologies. But it'll just be one more bit of analysis and data to just further support us working in the right direction. These are our updated, anticipated actions related to the CP2 contract. As I mentioned, it's a progressive design build, so it's different than design bid build or design build. So as I mentioned, in September this fall, the CP2 contractor will present proposed innovations. In the last quarter of the year and beginning of next year, there will be some early work packages, ordering the TBM, utility relocations, building demolitions, some of the site prep, and the excavation for where the tunnel boring machine will go. In the third and fourth quarter of 2023, enabling works will begin. And this is the point at which we will have the Ctmp done, the contract specific Ctmp, and Erica will go in details of that because we want to be prepared for all of that when we begin construction in the end of 2023, beginning of 2024. And Erica, I think you're up next, if I'm correct.
And we should pause before we go to the CTP.
I had this slide. I forgot this.
Yeah, you have one more slide. And then we should let others, if they have questions or comments on, we just presented Bernice.
This is basically our procurement framework to completion, as I think you're all pretty well aware that we're delivering this project with 4 major contract systems: tunnel and track work, the new haul yard in Santa Clara Station, and then the 3 San Jose stations. This schedule shows that we have completed the major procurement on systems and hope for an NTP in 2022. Tunnel and track work, like I said, we've got this limited NTP coming up, I think on Friday. Santa Clara Station, I believe we have the draft RFP out and looking at an NTP in 2023. And then on the stations, we're holding off on that a little bit to ensure, like, as some of these things are being evaluated with the CP2 contract, we want to make sure that that lays the foundation before we go further with the stations contract. So we have sort of put that on a little bit of hold, but that is a later effort because the stations can't commence construction until the foundations for the tunneling and the deep bores are done. So that doesn't have an impact on the overall project schedule. And now I think I'm handing it over for questions, right?
That's right. There's Danny. If you have comments or questions on this topic, please save those for the report out. If anyone else has questions or comments on what Bernice just presented, please raise your hand. Chris, you're up.
Hi, I do have a question. So again, I kind of agree with Danny when he was talking about the same stuff we talked about a couple of years ago, iterating the information to the community because people come and gone, and a lot of people don't know what's really going on, and I agree with that. So in saying that, are we considering mean single bore? Does that change?
The currently scoped project is a single bore tunnel. And the tracks are side by side, and then it goes to these mid-tunnel facilities, and the tracks are stacked, and then they go back side by side. So yes, the project that we're advancing right now is the single bore tunnel. We have been asked just to do a third-party peer review to compare that to the former project that was designed back in 2008. So we have agreed to proceed with that, but we are also concurrently proceeding with the project as designed and scoped.
Okay, one last question now. Because of all these plans that are going to be going on, are we considering or demanding plans that are going to be in place to compensate businesses that are going to be affected by the construction on East Santa Clara Street?
So Erica, in one of the earlier slides, presented information on our small business resource program. And there are 4 elements to that program, one of which, depending on the means and methods and certain criteria, if there were impacts, there would be criteria that would be part of a business assistance program. The other areas are marketing, technical assistance, and signage. So 4 elements to the small business resource program.
Sorry, I missed it because I'm the only one here at the boutique today. But thank you. You answered that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. And in the interest of time, Erica, let's move on to the CTMPs. And we can come back and ask if there's questions on what needs presented for the VTA board recap. We can do that during the report out. Erica, you're up.
Great, thank you. A reminder to us all, the Construction Transportation Management Plan is how VTA committed to coordinate multimodal access during construction. As you may recall, I've talked about this in the past, draft CTMP was created by VTA, the City of San Jose, and the City of Santa Clara, and is included in all 4 of the contract packages. The draft CTMP also includes the Emergency Services Coordination Plan, which is another environmental commitment we have, which lays out how we coordinate emergency services during construction, so our construction does not negatively impact the response times. As all 4 contract packages are either design build or progressive design build, we didn't want to dictate the contractor's means and methods, so the draft is high-level overarching information. Once the contractors come on board, they'll develop contract package specific CTMPs in coordination with VTA, the City of San Jose, City of Santa Clara, as applicable, building off the draft plan and adding more detail on detours, sequencing, et cetera, based on their needs and methods. Then based on those specific CTMPs, they will develop individual traffic control plans, which will include site-specific requirements on access routes, signage, notifications, and parking. Next slide. We kind of want to walk through the schedule here for the development of the CTMP. So in 2018, we completed our final environmental document, which included public involvement and city community coordination, committing to developing the construction outreach management program, which includes the CTMP, which I just mentioned, as well as the emergency services coordination plan and the construction education and outreach plan, which we've talked about many times in these meetings here. We received more than 160 comments on topics that are covered in the CTMP, including from some of you here at the meeting. Which we responded to, which fed into this process. In 2019 and 2020, we completed more than 50 access and service needs interviews with businesses, institutions, and other key stakeholders along the alignment, which fed into the development of the draft CTMP in 2021, where we coordinated with the cities to develop the draft. Once the contractors are on board in 2022 and beyond, we'll coordinate with them, the cities, as well as stakeholders in the community on the development of the contract package specific CTMPs, which I'm going to walk through the process of now on the next slide. So once the contractors are on board, we'll have regular coordination meetings between the contractor, VTA, and the cities. In addition, we'll have regular coordination with adjacent businesses and institutions throughout the development to provide input. We definitely have heard your comments over the years, Danny, and school safety is most definitely included in there already and will continue to be. So we will definitely have that covered. In addition, the community will also have the opportunity to provide input for our consideration on the draft contract specific CTMPs, as well as on, we'll also be covering the need for work hour discussion in the community engagement as well. So there'll be opportunities, future opportunities for engagement. As Bernice mentioned, the CP2 contractor is getting onboarded and coming up to speed. So I'll be back once they're on board with more information and future updates on the first CP2 specific Ctmp, because based on the process, as these are, the first contract is CP2, which is progressive design build. They don't know yet what's going to happen over by 28th Street, as they're going to be starting over, in the West Portal over at New Hall Yard. So they'll probably have a couple of different documents that they develop over time. And so as we get into an area, we'll update you on the process overall, but as they get into areas that are closer to where the stakeholders and community are located for that construction transportation management plan, then we'll engage with those communities and stakeholders.
Thank you, Erica. So we now there's time for questions for Erica on the CTMPs or comments about them.
So my question is, when you're meeting with VTA, the city, and the contractors, how come you're not including the community?
Because
are we not intelligent enough to be invited?
Oh, no, you're definitely intelligent. And because we have meetings with you here where you provide all your feedback. So we take all the feedback, and when we meet with them, we express the feedback that we've heard from you, so that when we come to you and meet with you, that we will have already incorporated some of that feedback. And then, also some of these groups and you, Danny, would be considered a stakeholder. So when we start to work on the CTMP for the 28th Street area, we will definitely be including you in some of those meetings and engaging with you as well.
Oh, I would appreciate that, because I would hate for you to give these contractors and the city our position on safety, and then them say, well, you know what, we know more than they do. Okay.
Thank you.
Erica, is it also fair to say that there have been many construction projects that have advanced before, and there's like established policy the city has that we need to ensure that we adhere to, which is one of the reasons we engage with them early? In VTA, there's also probably a similar thing related to existing transit routes.
Yes, there's definitely a specialty from, experience from the city and VTA, but there are also, I do realize that, the community and stakeholders do have valuable input to provide as well.
So Doug, that statement is unfair, because the community has already showed that VTA and the city do not care about anything but the bottom line with BRT. They stage their material on our streets. They stage their equipment on our street without fences, and our kids got hurt falling off of the equipment. They dug holes in our street 2 feet deep, 2 feet wide, where children could walk into a puddle and drown without fencing on the project. So your statement is unfair, that people are smarter than us.
I hear your point, Danny. I'm not trying to say that. I'm just trying to say that we also need to be consistent with existing policy and work with the community to make sure we work from all angles. And I think Erica answered that well.
Yes, she did. But failed policy can be consistent. Okay.
Thank you. Are there other questions or comments for Erica? Related to the CTMPs?
I really hate being the bad guy, you guys.
Thank you, Danny. So we're going to move on to the CWG member report out. And this is the part that's open for any type of discussion, right? So we had earlier, as we presented a topic, collecting feedback on this topic. Here, we just want to hear from you, right? So if you want to go revisit something we shared earlier and discuss that, we can. Or if you want to say something more general, whatever you want to do, whatever you want to talk about, this is your time. So if you want to put things in the chat, you can do that. If you want to speak, I encourage folks to raise their hand, and I will call on you in the order that hands are raised. So the floor is yours. Danny, yes, please.
So guess what, man? I really love this. I really love this. because I report to my neighborhood, I report to Guadalupe and Mayfair, I report to Ernesto and Cassell, to Gloria and Arbuckle and Sandy and Capital Gas. I don't report too much to Melissa up at Mount Pleasant, but you know what? You guys are well known. So I appreciate these meetings.
Thank you. And we appreciate you expressing yourself and representing your community at them. Thank you. Thank you for your continued engagement, for sure. Anyone else? There's Chris. Hi, Chris. You're up.
Not too much to report because the people on this end, they're very much in tune going on. Trust and believe. I'm surprised that I can't even hear them now. But they go online, and several people have actually printed out a lot of the scripts or the report information that they can see. We had an opportunity where when we were able to gather, it was only 4 of us though. We watched actually the YouTubes together on some of the stuff that we missed out, and which was really good. Some of them we couldn't even get on though, which was really weird. So I don't know if anybody is aware of that. Some of the recordings that for the VTA for our meeting on YouTube, they're not available. So somebody might want to check that out though. I don't know if it was because or for that day where it was not available. Anyway, they're pretty up to date on what's going on. I've been staying really busy because there's a lot going on here on East Santa Clara Street, you know, with the new church going up, and then the other one that's on 11th Street. And then there's 2, 5, we lost 6 businesses the last 2 months on East Santa Clara Street. And so, we also lost Medics. Medics closed down. They were there 35 years.
Oh no.
And well, they needed to go. It was time. We had stuff dated 1950. Time. Everything has a season. But there's new businesses that are opening up, and I've introduced myself to them on behalf of the association. So I'm really hoping that I get more people, new people. That's why I shared that generate everything that we heard in 2017 to the new people, so they can be on board and be supportive of what's going on too. And so much.
Thank you, Chris. When you were talking about the meetings that you couldn't see on YouTube, are you talking about CWG meetings?
Yeah, the CWG, no, the BART, there was the BART VTA meeting.
The BART VTA meeting. Oh, the
Yeah.
joint BART VTA meeting.
I think it was the BART VTA meeting, and one that everybody was interested in watching was the one that the ribbon cutting at June 12th, 2020.
June 12th, 2020.
The one that was in Milpitas though.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sorry, not Milpitas. Yes, when they were opening BART. That one you couldn't even see. Yeah, that was weird.
The BART opening day? That was on YouTube?
Well, yep, because I was supposed to be there, but we had to shelter in place. And it was on my birthday. So I remember very clear that day.
Okay. I think we can look into that, although I don't think it was more of a celebration than like a decision-making meeting. If it was a decision-making meeting, I'd feel more obligated to ensure that video was posted.
It's really good to have these available for people that are not able to engage.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, this is the world we're in now, unfortunately. I miss, I miss those real meetings that we had. So hopefully we'll get back to that soon.
Yes.
I think we did do a video. I just don't think we posted it because we did have some comments because there were some dignitaries that couldn't make it as well. And we had video statements, and then we did a collaborative video, but we were hoping that things would open up and we were going to do a community event and show the video, and then we couldn't have another event, right? Because it was a smaller event, but I'll look into it. We may have some video that we could share.
Thank you.
Cool, thank you. Terry, I see you have your hand raised.
Yeah, just a quick report. Some good news is that we have multiple housing projects moving through the city approval process. A couple about to break ground and others earlier in the process. So these are in the urban villages, the Roosevelt Park Urban Village and in the Five Wounds Urban Village. So that's great progress. The bad news is there's, and you know this, VTA folks, there's rampant cynicism about the cost estimates, especially as that federal estimate came out with 2 billion more than the VTA estimate. So keep working on getting the media to, I don't know, believe you, and good luck.
Thank you, Terry. So we have 10 minutes left. I need a little bit of time to talk next steps, which is basically just, there's CWG meetings September, November, and a preview of that draft agenda. So, we have 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes where the floor is still open. Justin, yes, please.
Hey, Doug. Thanks for doing the work today. I know you're stepping in. I wanted to ask a little bit about, or even comment on what Terry was talking about, like the language of the CWG role, and how it's really asking of community. This has been a really long project. I know there's people who've been on it longer than I have, and it is even a long scope for me. And just kind of like talking to that maybe people aren't really feeling impactful or involved. I mean, I can think of like one of the meetings we had in the art and design was like, which colors are we going to choose? Stuff like that. And I kind of wanted to ask two things. Is there anything on your end or your scope? I know you kind of just stepped into a different role, but anybody on the VTA side, as to why the participation is going down, both because of the meetings and the surveys. Also, with that, is there a level of participation that's required before you guys can move on? If only 2 people show up to the meeting, or you're not getting this engagement back, how does that affect the project and you guys moving forward? Thank you.
I can take a stab at that unless you want to take the first stab, Bernice.
I think it's probably certainly worth our while to reach out to the memberships and find out, and especially those who have not been participating, and find out why. Is it because COVID's impacted, they're working remotely more, the challenges of doing these, it would be good. I think it would certainly be a good exercise for us to do. I don't believe we've ever gotten so little participation that a meeting wasn't worthwhile. I think we'll get that feedback and then ask those people if they want to have another representative, I guess, if they just are too stretched or they're not feeling engaged, and then find out, like we've gotten some input today of how we can better engage the members.
I think, thanks, Bernice. I also think there's the part, that people are experiencing online meeting fatigue, right? Which is why we're focusing on doing some of those in-person meetings, but we need to be in a context. We talked about that's on our radar, but we need to be in a place where we can do those again, right? Because there's a lot more to like being able to meet and talk with your friends and neighbors. It's what happens before and after, and like the whispering during meetings. It's real connections, right? Here we have chat. It's just not quite the same. You can't grab dinner with people afterwards.
And when we went to this format, I don't think any of us anticipated we'd be doing this for 2 years and still not knowing if we can commence with in person yet. We looked hopeful a couple times and then we've had to pull back. So
then I think it's worth reading what Danny just wrote in the chat. Another reason might be a lack of trust that our voices are being implemented. So just sharing with the group that sentiment is out there for transparency, right? We got a couple more minutes, 2-3 more minutes. Anyone else have anything they'd like to say, to ask, raise a discussion item? Although we don't have much time for discussion, it is something we can put on our radar for future meetings.
I think I would just like to invite anyone on any of the CWGs, if there are concerns or input, like it doesn't have to wait for a meeting, like feel free. I think we had all of us, our contacts, and I think most of you, and you all get the emails, you can send it through Marissa or Kristen and it'll get to us or whoever needs it. But I hope that everyone on this CWG knows that anytime they have some input or anytime they have some concerns, we welcome, that feedback.
And sorry, I want to raise my hand, but I know we're just running short of time. Are any other groups experiencing this as well? Or is this a group that's to this location? Like is engagement down within the other groups?
I think you could see that in the survey results, right?
Yeah.
There's 15 total responses across three CWGs.
I missed that, sorry.
So there was a total of 15 responses in the survey we sent out across all.
I seen the slide. It didn't register to me that it was 15 across the 3 different. I just didn't catch it. I remember the slide though.
Yeah.
15 out of 39.
So like 30%, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, but what time for one more question, comment, and then I think it's time to close out. If there's anything else anyone would like to say or share. Okay, well, thank you for a good discussion today, everybody. We're going to take what we heard, think about how we can use that to improve. And, please, as Bernice said, one-on-one is also really helpful, right? We can get in deep with individuals and their concerns, questions in one-on-one conversation. So, these meetings are kind of where you daylight everything to everyone, have group conversations, but you can get much deeper one-on-one, not in a group. So please take advantage of that. So thank you today, right? So we're targeting the socials in July where we can get together in person if we can. If not, the next CWG meeting, the regular one like this one, is scheduled for September 14th. And the draft agenda is here. As I mentioned also, now David is the chair, so we intend to refine the work plan with him and confirm the agenda. But the working one we have right now is the standing item for the phase 2 update, an update on real estate and TOD. I see Ron still on the line, so probably get to hear from him, which is always fun. The building monitoring program, construction planning, station area planning, and adjacent developments. I imagine Ron has something to say about that one as well. Community engagement, and then another moment like we're having here with, try to reserve some time for folks to speak in an open forum like we are now. And so that's it. So I think with that, we're adjourned. Thank you everybody for your time today. Please reach out to us as you see fit. And we'll see you around town and on other channels. Have a great evening, everybody.
Hi, everybody. Nice to see you all.
Good night.
Good night.